The story of Ground Zero has been told and retold many times over the past decade. So many iterations and retellings that some don't even know what to believe anymore. It has been said that the people of Ground Zero were the first to gather after the world's reformation. The society of Ground Zero thrived for multiple generations until one representative stepped forward. "We want to separate," they had said. "We want to separate ourselves from this land, expand, see what else was out there." And the governess agreed. "Take what land you need. I will not stop you," she had said. "We will explore the coast to the south, the vast lands to the east and to the west, and we shall not harm your city to the north," the representatives would say. But what the governess did not see is that she was surrounded. 2/3 of her people had left. She had no defenses. So when the people of the newly found Alafast Alliance attacked, there was no way out for her. Her, along with her entire people, were completely and utterly decimated. Only a wasteland, a shell of once was, stand in its place today. And we are just the last few who survived. "Oh my God," Maeve says, leaning back from her sitting position in pure shock. "I had no idea." "It's not your fault. It's not like many people had access to these stories anyways. It's mainly a legend at this point." Viv and Jazz are sitting next to her in the tall grass, watching the sky as it goes from a dark blue to a lighter blue. "Look, I'm not even going to try to understand the kind of pain that you guys have gone through. But you know what I do know is the loss of the people you love. I know that I miss my parents every day, and I hate the system for taking them from me." She glances back at Viv for a moment, her hair in her eyes. "Let me help you," Maeve pleads. "I can keep you guys organized, run things from behind the scenes, like an assistant or something. You guys can do whatever you want. I want to be a part of it. Please." Maeve takes a deep breath, savoring the moment for a minute. The air begins to pick up, and the grasses sway in front of her, the anticipation overwhelming her. "Yes." The three talk for a while longer, about plans, and for a brief moment, there would be a laugh or two, about some old mishap or joke. Viv felt as though she could allow herself to relax a little. It felt nice, honestly. "Well, we haven't slept since we got here," Viv laughs. "Do you mind if we head in?" No, not at all. Go ahead. Let's meet by my car this afternoon, and I should have everything set by then." The three nod at each other and go their separate ways. "Are you sure about this?" Jazz asks. "I support your decision. I want to make sure it's the right one for us and the rest of the team." "I am. I'm absolutely positive," Viv says, as they reach the barn hand in hand. She understands us on some level, but more importantly, she's one of us. She's been through a lot, and honestly, I think she could be useful. Maeve walks back to the house, hoping that Jude isn't up yet. Last she checked, he was fast asleep on the couch. But as soon as she opened the door, she hears a voice. "So, where have you been?" A dreary and honestly dreadful voice comes from the kitchen. So, with a nervous step, she heads to where the voice is. I'm sorry, Jude. I came home when you were asleep, and I didn't want to wake you, and I was outside because I couldn't fall asleep, and Jude stops her. "Do you think I would have cared?" Jude asks, turning to face her, the kitchen counter in between them. "I thought I lost you in that riot yesterday. I don't know what I would have done if It wasn't a riot, Jude." "Yes, it was, he continues. "I don't know what I would have done, Maeve. All I want is for your safety. I was up all night, worried, sick." "I'm sorry," Maeve murmurs. "The whole thing was a lot. I needed to clear my head. Could you have at least called me next time?" Jude asks, moving around the island. Maeve nods, looking down. Red fills her cheeks, and her face feels warm, still feeling raw from her last conversation she had with the girls. Hey, Jude says, moving closer to Maeve. "What's wrong?" Maeve doesn't speak. "Hey, he says again. For the first time that she can remember, Jude leans in and embraces her. Maeve moves away from Jude, taking a few steps back, her tears refusing to stop. "What's going on?" he asks. Maeve couldn't bear to look at him. She just couldn't. "I can't stay, Jude. I adore you. I adore this place." She gestures around her. "But I can't stay." "What do you mean you can't stay?" "I just can't." "But why? Tell me why." Jude persists. He's pacing around the kitchen now, hands around his neck. "You won't get it. Then explain it to me, Maeve." Jude stops mid-step and turns to her, his voice loud. And for the first time in a long time, she sees tears streaming down his face. "Explain it to me. Explain why, after all of these years, you go. I thought you were happy." "Oh, Jude," Maeve breathes. "Don't Jude me," he demands, filling the space with his anger and frustration, so much so that she feels every ounce of her brother's pain. "If you were unhappy, I should have known. Did I do something? Did I do this to you?" Maeve looks at him, at his face, and all she feels is betrayal. "Is this my fault, Maeve? Are you leaving because of me?" Maeve steps closer to him, but he steps away from her. "No, you didn't do anything. I need a change. Yesterday, the protests, it all opened my eyes, and I saw the realities of the world that we live in. I can't just sit around and do nothing. So you what? He asks, leaning onto the kitchen island, putting his face in his hands. You want to be some sort of savior? Maeve looks at him and sits down, pulling his hands into hers. No, I don't want to be a savior. Then why go? He asks again. Because it takes her a moment to find the right words. Because I want to change the world. And if those two girls yesterday could do something, even if it was just a moment, who says that I can't either? Viv wakes up with a start, almost forgetting where she is, and then remembers everything that happened in the past 24 hours. The protest, escaping authorities, and coming here, to the smelly barn of someone she barely knows. Looks like you two are finally up, a voice near her remarks, and she looks beside her to see Jazz is stirring as well. What time is it? Jazz asks, feeling the hay stuck in her hair. 7:30, Maeve says, closing the barn door behind her. I see that you're packed. Viv nods towards the tattered backpack in Maeve's hand. It's smaller than she would have expected from her, though she's not sure how long Maeve will be with their organization, so it might be a few days or it might be a few months. It all depends on how the plan goes. So, yeah, it didn't take too long, she says, slinging it over her shoulder and stepping closer to their makeshift bed. Are you too sure that I can help? Maeve asks, a glimmer of hope and a tone of fear glimmering in her eyes. Are you still sure you want to join us? Viv asks. If she wants to be a part of this, she has to be completely and utterly dedicated. I've never been more sure of anything in my entire life, she says. I want this. Good. Viv smiles. This is the first time that she has seen another person as passionate about their cause as she is. Let's go then. According to Jazz's GPS, it looks like we'll be getting there soon, Maeve states. Their road trip to Ground Zero has taken them much longer than Maeve initially thought. We should have gotten out sooner, she thinks. Her, Viv, and Jazz left around noon that day, and now the sun is beginning to set. Crazy. Right, Jazz says from the back seat, snatching the GPS from Maeve's hand, staring at it intently. I knew that. Maeve smirks. She didn't trust either of them to drive her speeder, no matter how many times Viv had tried to convince her that they both knew how to drive. She just didn't believe a word Viv said. So, how did you break it to your brother? Viv asks. Maeve didn't really want to talk about it, so she kept it short and sweet. I told him the truth, that I needed a change, and leaving was the only way that could happen. And he took it well. Maeve looks next to her, at Viv for a second. As well as he could have. Viv nods in response. Hopefully she got the message that Maeve didn't want to talk about it much more. It's not really what matters right now anyways. She just needs to focus on helping these two with their cause. After an hour goes by, Maeve hears from Jazz from the back. Home sweet home. She looks around, and in the distance, coming up fast, is a city. A city, Maeve thinks. How can this still be standing? But as she drives closer to the buildings, the destruction becomes more and more apparent. Each building is made from brick and stone, and some made of metal, but most of them at this point are rusted to the point where you can't tell. Many of the brick and stone buildings are decimated, their remains scattering the streets. There aren't many cars either. The ones that she can see have all been smashed, melted, or flipped over. The horrors of the city really sink in as she continues to look around her. I don't understand why people would do this, she says. Both Viv and Jazz are dead silent at this point, and she understands why. This is their home. Just, take a right here, and our base should be the last building on the left. Viv directs her, not saying anything else. Maeve nods, making the turn. And to her left, she sees the biggest building that she's seen in the city so far, that's still, mostly, standing. Maeve parks her speeder in front of the building and looks up. Their building is made up of a dark gray stone, with a few vines and some moss twisting itself through the windows and around the cracks in the structure. Some of the windows look smashed in, while others are burnt or filled with dust. She gets out her side of the speeder, in front of the building, waiting for Jazz and Viv to come out. The building looks like it could have been an apartment complex at one point, but it's hard to tell. As she waits for Viv and Jazz to get out of the car, she counts the stories. 6 usable floors, it looks like. She can tell that there used to be more, but the top floors look unusable at this point. Are you sure this building is safe for your base of operations? Maeve asks. Trust me, Viv says, stepping out the car beside her. We've been here for years. It's always looked worse than it is. Are you ready? Jazz asks, stepping on the other side of Maeve. Yeah, I think so, Maeve says, taking it all in one last time before they head inside. Welcome to HQ, Viv says, opening the door for both Jazz and Maeve. She turns to face inwards to see her home. The ground floor reflects an old lobby, with a front desk directly opposite of her, dark floor, and stone walls. There are a few cushions and chairs sprawled around the space, but nothing special at this point. After all the years of them staying here, they haven't really had much time to redecorate. To the left of her is a set of stairs leading up to all of the floors above her and 2 sets of elevators. Viv looks to Maeve, who's circling the perimeter of the lobby. It's so... She hears hesitation in Maeve's voice. Dark in here. She stops at the front desk, and Viv steps forwards towards her. Yeah, well, it's always like that here, she explains, putting her hand on the front desk, a few dust bunnies floating in the air as she does so, and they both cough. Why don't we head upstairs? Jazz suggests. That's a good idea, Viv thinks. Everyone's probably worried sick about us. Not like they have a big group to begin with, but they better head up soon. So, with that, Viv turns to Jazz and nods. Come on, Maeve. Let's introduce you to the rest of the team. Currently, there's 4 of us. 5 now, including you, Jazz explains as they wait for the rickety elevator to stop on the right floor. Maeve shifts her weight from foot to foot, her nerves kicking in a bit. Or is this excitement? She can't tell at this point. There's us, Dean, and Nate. We're hoping to expand a bit, but we don't really know how yet, Jazz continues. We were thinking about recruitment across Pangea, but that's still up in the air right now. Okay, cool, Maeve says. The elevator plays a quiet ding as the doors open. In front of her is an entirely open plan, with gray walls and gray flooring, pillars lining the sides of the walls. She steps out of the elevator with her newfound allies, and they lead her to a spread of folding tables and chairs. Papers, cups half filled with coffee and old takeout scatter the tables and floors of the space. In the back, where Viv and Jazz have led her to, is 2 movable whiteboards with maps taped to them and a spread of plans on the table right in front of her. Nate? Hey Nate, we're back, Jazz says, walking around the whiteboards, moving them aside to reveal a door. Nate? Jazz asks as the door opens. Oh my god, you're alive! A raspy voice exclaims from inside the hidden room. I can't believe it. Thank God. Is Viv with you? The voice says, stammering out from behind the door. Viv, thank God. I'm so happy that you 2 are safe. The person that came out of the door is around the same height as Maeve, maybe even shorter. Around 5'2", maybe? They have olive-colored eyes and wavy black hair, and a quite small build, too. From the looks of it, it seems as though they just came from a fist fight. A black eye, split lip, and it looks like they're limping, too. Don't look so great, Viv comments, embracing them in a hug. Yeah, they laugh. A lot of us weren't doing so hot at the end of the riot yesterday. The cops didn't love the way you 2 left things, they say, looking from Viv to Jazz. Let's just say Dean and the folks we recruited aren't in the best shape at the moment. Who's the new kid? They ask, shrugging towards Maeve before falling over. No need to worry about Maeve, Nate. She's with us. Hopefully, she'll help us with our plans, Viv explains, catching Nate and leading them towards the nearest chair. And Maeve? This is Nate. They're another head of the protest group. It's us, them, and Dean, as I said earlier. As soon as Nate sits, Jazz comes out of the back room, guiding someone else with her. Dean! Jazz says, rushing to help him sit next to Nate. Dean looks almost just as bad as Nate. He also has a swollen lip and a few bruises lining his arms and spotting his face. We're okay for now, Dean says. The police really did a number on us after you ran. And as he said that, he eyes Maeve. Should we be talking about this in front of the newcomer? He asks. It's fine, Maeve says. I'm with you all. Totally 100% committed to your cause. Dean nods. Alright then, he states, hesitantly. Well, after the brutal end of our protest, all of the recruits were arrested. Luckily, Nate and I escaped before they could catch us. But at that point, we thought you 2 were arrested as well. He explains, trying to stand, but inevitably falling back into the chair. Rest, please," Jazz pleads. "Is there anything else that happened yesterday?" Viv asks. Dean and Nate look at each other. "You don't know? The announcement?" Maeve shakes her head. "Apparently," Dean starts, "Madam President wasn't just planning on doing any old event yesterday." The two take a breath, and after a moment, Dean continues. "She was planning on announcing her dictatorship during her speech yesterday." "Her what?" Viv exclaims. "This is all happening too soon," she continues in rage. "Our president shouldn't have announced her tyranny until much later. Not yesterday." Viv feels lightheaded. This can't be happening. Not now. "She announced it via the intercoms around the city yesterday," Nate explains. "But our government is a democracy. As messed up as it is, it's a democracy," Maeve says. "This doesn't make any sense." "I mean," Viv starts, putting her hand on Maeve's shoulder. She looks shocked. "This was going to happen inevitably. Have you seen the way she's been acting over the past year or so? Commanding her troops, raiding cities." Viv looks around. Her own predecessors and mentors, even, were the ones who destroyed this place. Viv sighs, looking down. "We'd caught wind of something like this happening," she explains, looking at Maeve directly now. "But we didn't expect it to be something this big, or that she was announcing it this soon." She takes a look at the maps sprawled on the table, searching for Maeve's farm. "My only question is how we didn't hear the announcement yesterday." "Well, we never get announcements via intercom," Maeve explains. "The intercom system is only really used in densely populated areas. So cities like the capital, for example, will get announcements way sooner than the farmlands." Viv more closely examines Maeve's face. Shock, Viv thinks. Maeve's still in shock. "Hey, are you okay?" Viv asks, trying to be as sincere as she can. "I'm fine," Maeve says, shakily, and looks up from the plans spread in front of her. "So, what's the plan?" "Our original plan was to stage a few protests, see if we could get the government to change, with how the government is set up now. Even if it's difficult to do, it's still possible to achieve some sort of changing, via protest. Unfortunately, I think that our plan needs to be sped up a bit," Jazz explains, laying out the bigger maps and grabbing the closest markers to her. "Because of the president's announcement?" Maeve asks. "Yes." "All right," Maeve says. "This is a lot," she thinks, "but you can't stop now. A lot of your recruits are jailed now, right? So that means we need to split up. One group to get our old recruits, and one group to recruit more people. From what I saw yesterday, even with the added people, your group is still small. Maybe 20 people at most, including us. And for this plan to work, we need to get as much help as we can get," Maeve explains. "You're right," Nate agrees. "The place we were hoping to hit is Sun City. It's just west of the capital and is the most dense out of all of the other cities around the globe." "That makes sense," Viv states. "And I think our recruits were driven to and jailed at Cersei, which is just south of the capital." Viv draws a line from the capital to Cersei in red Sharpie. "I can go down there to get our recruits," she says. "Not alone, you're not. You'll need backup," Nate states, standing up shakily. Let me come with you, they say. You're in no shape whatsoever to do anything right now, Nate. Viv replies, ushering Nate to sit back down. But you do need backup, Nate continues. You can't just go in there alone. That's true, Viv says, rubbing the side of her face. Yeah, Maeve says, cutting Viv off. I agree with both of you. Nate, you're in no condition to go, but Viv does need help. So, how about the three of us go together? 3 of us, Viv says. I don't know about that, Maeve. She cuts Viv off. No, it's better if the 3 of us go together. Trust me. I got your backs. You guys got my back. I don't think there's anything that we need to worry about. All right, Jazz says with a smile on her face. Now that we have our team for Cersei, Dean, you cool with coming to Sun City with me? She asks. He nods in response. I'm down to go to Sun City. All right, Maeve says, happy about the group's decision. Sounds like a plan. Let's get to work. This has been Zero Sum Game, Episode 3, Ground Zero. I would like to thank Ben Sounds and Adobe Stock for all of the music that you've heard in this episode. Join us next time when the crew's plan is enacted.